Jason never took me seriously. It started subtly, interrupting me during conversations, dismissing my thoughts with a half smile and a wave of his hand. Relax, Olivia. You're overthinking it again. But over the years, the subtlety sharpened into something more dangerous. We'd been married 8 years. No kids, by choice. He always said they'd get in the way of our careers, and I naively agreed. On paper, we looked perfect. Jason ran a boutique consulting firm, I worked as a financial analyst. We had a nice home in the suburbs, matching cars in the driveway, and date nights we posted for likes but never really enjoyed. What people didn't see was how the power dynamic had shifted. Somewhere along the way, Jason stopped listening. He made decisions without me, especially when it came to money. At first, it was small, moving money into a better account, signing off on new investments without looping me in. I didn't press. I didn't want to seem paranoid. But then the account started shrinking. I'd always handled our household budget, so when I noticed a $12,000 withdrawal that I hadn't authorized, I brought it up. Jason brushed it off like lint on a jacket. High return investment, he said. Way over your head, Liv. I bit my tongue. That's what I'd been doing a lot lately, biting my tongue, shrinking in the shadow of a man who thought he was the sun. One night, I saw a notification pop up on our shared iPad, confirmation for a luxury hotel suite in Miami. My heart sank. We weren't going to Miami. He was. And he hadn't told me. I confronted him. He laughed. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not in rage, but in clarity. You really think I'm stupid, don't you? I asked. He didn't even flinch. Just kept laughing. Come on, Olivia. You don't understand the world I live in. Leave the real work to me. Go read a book or something. I smiled. A small, tight, dangerous smile. That night, while he slept soundly next to me, without a care in the world, I created a folder on my laptop. I named it Insurance. He had no idea what was coming. Dear listeners, if you've ever been underestimated like Olivia, share how it made you feel in the comments. Do you think Jason will keep looking down on her, or is he about to face the truth? And where are you tuning in from? I'd love to greet you properly, from wherever you call home. Don't forget to subscribe to EN True Tales so you won't miss the next part, because this is only the beginning. Jason's condescension didn't surprise me anymore. It was like background noise, irritating but familiar. What hurt more was how easily I'd let it become part of our everyday life. 8 years ago, I married a man who made me laugh, who said he admired my intelligence, who said we were a team. Back then, I believed him. In those early years, we stayed up late discussing stocks and strategies. I was the one who caught a red flag in one of his supplier contracts that saved his business thousands. He pulled me close that night and said, "What would I do without your brain?" Apparently, he found out. Somewhere along the way, admiration turned into dismissal. Every time I offered a suggestion about our finances, Jason brushed me off with a chuckle and a "you wouldn't understand." If I challenged him, he'd shake his head and say, "I know you mean well." I began to second-guess myself. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe I should just let him handle it. After all, he was the businessman, right? Still, my instincts kept whispering. They whispered louder when I noticed the first strange transaction, a few $1,000s missing from our joint savings. Jason waved it off, it was just a business investment. Short-term loss, long-term gain. Then came the late nights at the office. The overseas conferences he'd never mentioned before. The new cologne. The locked desk drawer. I didn't want to believe it. But you can't unknow what your gut keeps trying to tell you. So I started to watch. At first, it was small. I took screenshots of our online bank statements. I photographed receipts when I found them crumpled in his suit pockets. I made mental notes when he claimed he was out of town, but his social media said otherwise. Jason never noticed. I'd learned to keep my face calm, my voice soft, my questions vague. He thought I was backing off. In truth, I was stepping back to see the full picture. And what a picture it was turning out to be. I bought a red leather folder. I told Jason it was for work, but it wasn't. It was for me, for the truth I was slowly stitching together, piece by piece. Every evening, once Jason had gone to bed, I would open my laptop and upload the day's findings. Screenshots of emails he forgot to delete. Bank transfers to unfamiliar accounts. Pictures of restaurant receipts, 2 entrees, 2 drinks, always with some woman's name scribbled in a quick note on the back. And then, there were the photos. I didn't take them myself. I couldn't bring myself to hire a private investigator. That felt like something out of a TV drama. But sometimes, life hands you the evidence when you're not even looking for it. A friend from college texted me a blurry photo from a networking gala she'd attended in San Diego. "Is this your husband?" she asked. There he was, Jason, arm around a woman in a red dress, laughing, wine glass in hand. I saved that one on the first page of the folder. Still, I said nothing. I went to work. I cooked dinner. I asked how his meetings had gone. All the while, the folder grew thicker, heavier, as if it was absorbing my silence and my anger. But this wasn't just about cheating. It was about control. Jason had begun shifting our assets without telling me, selling property, dissolving joint investments. He claimed it was to simplify things. But I saw what he was really doing. He was getting ready to walk away clean, leaving me with nothing. He underestimated me. While he moved money into offshore accounts, I opened a new bank account of my own. Quietly. Steadily. I moved portions of my paycheck into it each week. I reconnected with an old mentor from business school. I studied divorce laws in our state. I met with a lawyer. For the first time in years, I stopped reacting. I started planning. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure when I did, the truth would speak louder than anything he could deny. And soon, that moment would come. It happened on a Tuesday. Jason came home earlier than usual, briefcase swinging, a smug smile plastered across his face. "Guess what?" he said, pouring himself a drink. "Closed the deal. Big one. Early retirement starting to look real." I smiled, nodding, playing the role I'd perfected for years, the agreeable, quiet wife. We had dinner, like always. Chicken, roasted vegetables. I cleared the plates. He sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone. I went upstairs, opened the red folder, and stared at the weight of my silence. It was time. I walked down, folder in hand, heart pounding in a steady, deliberate beat. He looked up, amused. "What's that?" he asked. "Proof," I said simply. "Of everything." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You've been watching too much TV." "I know about Sarah," I said. "And Emily. And the accounts in the Caymans. And the property in Scottsdale you put under your brother's name." His smirk faltered. Still, he leaned back and crossed his arms. "Olivia, come on. You think you've got some smoking gun? That's not how any of this works." I laid the folder on the table. Opened it. The color drained from his face. One by one, I laid out the documents, bank transfers, emails, hotel bookings, photos, each labeled, dated, annotated. I had matched financial records with calendar entries, surveillance footage from public places, and even a few careless texts he forgot to delete from the family iPad. This is illegal," he muttered, flipping through the pages. "No," I replied calmly. "It's all legal. I've had a lawyer reviewing everything for months." He looked up at me then, really looked. For the first time in years, maybe. And what he saw wasn't the woman he thought he could silence or control. "You don't know what you're doing," he said, grasping at control. I closed the folder. "I know exactly what I'm doing. And I'm done playing dumb." He laughed again, but this time it was hollow. Desperate. You think you'll win? I already have. He stood abruptly, knocking over his glass. The whiskey soaked into the tablecloth. You're making a mistake, he said, voice sharp. No, Jason. You did. You mistook quiet for weak. That was your first mistake. But thinking I wouldn't notice, that was your last. Jason didn't sleep that night. He stayed in his office, pacing back and forth like a caged animal, occasionally slamming drawers or muttering under his breath. I, on the other hand, slept like I hadn't in years. The next morning, I was already dressed when he walked into the kitchen. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. For once, he looked unsure of himself. I talked to Alan, he said, referring to our mutual friend who happened to be a lawyer. He says this could get messy. Maybe we can fix this, Olivia. You don't want to drag this through court. I took a sip of coffee and looked at him over the rim. I'm not dragging anything. I'm liberating myself. He pulled out a chair, sat down, and for the first time in our marriage, he didn't try to dominate the conversation. Look, maybe I was careless. But you've always been emotional, Liv. You're blowing this out of proportion. That word. Emotional. I'd been called that my whole life, by him, by colleagues, even by family, whenever I dared to speak up. But not today. Careless? I said, my voice steady. You funneled thousands out of our joint accounts. You were preparing to walk away with everything we built, and you call that careless? He looked away. I don't want your pity, I continued. And I don't want to fight. I just want what I deserve. Half. Maybe more. His jaw tightened. You're bluffing. I slid a sealed envelope across the table. Inside was the formal divorce petition, already filed, with copies of the financial reports, evidence logs, and a letter from my attorney. He didn't open it. He didn't need to. I thought we were a team, he said, voice low. We were, I replied. I just didn't know you were playing for the other side. He left the table in silence, and for the rest of the day, the house was still. Not the tense, uncertain stillness of a pending argument, but the kind that follows a truth that can't be taken back. Later that week, his lawyer called mine. The message was short: Jason was ready to negotiate. But I wasn't negotiating from fear anymore. I was negotiating from power. I moved out 2 weeks later. Not because Jason asked me to, he never did, but because I needed to breathe. To be somewhere that didn't smell like disappointment and quiet resentment. I found a small apartment on the edge of the city, with creaky floors and second-hand furniture. It had no luxury, no polished marble countertops or walk-in closets. But it had sunlight in the mornings and silence at night. And most importantly, it was mine. I opened my own bank account. A new one, clean. I rerouted my paycheck there, cut off every auto payment Jason had set up for our convenience. I hired my own accountant, someone who treated me like a person, not a problem. For the first time in years, I walked into my job without feeling like I had to rush home to prove something. People noticed. My boss, Shannon, called me into her office after a week. You've been sharper lately, she said, tapping her pen. More focused. Like you're finally here. I am, I said. She smiled. Good. Because I've got a promotion in mind. It wasn't just the job. I started going to the gym again, not to lose weight, not to please anyone, but to feel strong in my own body. I reconnected with my college roommate, Marla, who I hadn't seen in years because Jason always found a reason to skip the dinner invites. You're glowing, she said when we met up for lunch. I think it's freedom, I told her. The divorce proceedings took 3 months. Jason's lawyer pushed back hard, trying to invalidate some of the financial claims. But the evidence spoke louder than any courtroom argument. My folder, the one Jason had once laughed at, was now the reason I walked away with my fair share. More than fair, actually. My lawyer looked at me when it was over and said, "You did everything right. You planned. You documented. You never raised your voice or lost control. That's rare." What I didn't say to him, but what I knew deep down, was that I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I finally realized I deserved better. I saw Jason one last time, months after the divorce was finalized. It was at a charity fundraiser we used to attend every year together. I almost didn't go. But then I thought, why not? I wasn't the one who should be hiding. I walked in wearing the same black dress Jason had once called too serious for an event like this. Funny, now it fit me better than ever, classic, sharp, unapologetic. He was standing near the bar, holding a glass of scotch, laughing at something someone said. His smile faltered when he saw me. I didn't flinch. He walked over slowly. "Olivia," he said, voice cautious. "Jason. You look, well." "I am." A beat passed. He looked down at his drink. "I read your article. The one in Forbes." "Good," I said. "I hope you learned something." He gave a dry laugh. "You really did it, huh?" I looked at him, not with anger, not even pity, but with a kind of peaceful indifference I never thought I'd feel. "No, Jason. I didn't do anything. I just stopped letting you undo me." He blinked. "I used to think silence kept the peace," I continued. "Turns out, it only protected the wrong people." He didn't say much after that. He offered a stiff nod and walked away. For the first time in years, I didn't follow him with my eyes. I stayed at the event for hours. I talked to people. I laughed, genuinely. When I got home, I opened a bottle of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights pulse like a heartbeat. My phone buzzed, a text from Shannon. "Congrats on the full executive role. Call me tomorrow." I smiled. There was no folder anymore. No secrets, no games, no calculations. Just me. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. 6 months later, I found myself standing in front of a room filled with women, some in business suits, some in worn jeans, some barely holding back tears. It was a workshop for women navigating financial abuse. I'd been invited to speak, not just as a survivor, but as someone who rebuilt from the ashes, carefully, quietly, and completely. I took a breath, then began. I once let someone convince me that I didn't understand money. That I wasn't capable. That I should just let him take care of things. That I was lucky to be with someone like him. I looked around the room. Every face was listening. Really listening. But luck doesn't look like erasing yourself. Luck doesn't feel like walking on eggshells in your own home. And love doesn't make you small. There was a silence so deep, you could feel it settle on the skin. I used to think my silence was dignity. That if I just waited long enough, things would fix themselves. But silence can become a prison. And the only key is your voice. After the talk, a woman approached me. She looked tired. Hollow. But there was something in her eyes, just a flicker, like someone had lit a match in the dark. "Do you really think someone like me can start over?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "You already have. You're here." That night, I walked home alone. Not lonely, just alone. And free. I passed the old bookstore on the corner, the one Jason never wanted to stop at because it wasted time. I went in. Bought 3 novels. No one to rush me. No one to roll their eyes. At home, I lit a candle. Made pasta from scratch. Put on jazz and danced barefoot in the kitchen. Just because I could. People often ask if I miss him. I don't. I miss the version of myself I used to hide. But she's back now. Stronger. Louder. Wiser. Jason thought the folder was my revenge. He was wrong. The real revenge was choosing myself. What did you think of Olivia's transformation? Have you ever been underestimated like she was? Do you believe silence can sometimes be power? Let us know in the comments. Type 2 if you loved the ending, or 7 if you think Jason got off too easy. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share it with them. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to EN True Tales for more powerful stories like this. The next video will take you even deeper into what betrayal looks like behind closed doors. You won't want to miss it.